Thank you everyone for coming. It is a pleasure to have you everyone here in this webinar hosted by Urantia Association's Education Committee. Are you hearing me? Yes, okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to share with you a quick protocol. During the meeting, we ask you please mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid disturbing background noises. If you want to speak, please raise your hand and unmute yourself. Please use the chat only for webinar-related questions and use headphones if you can to improve sound quality and to reduce echo background noises when speaking. Please do not type when your microphone is not muted, and this session will be recorded for future study purpose use. The videos will be made available to the public in the Urantia Association YouTube channel. Turn off your camera if you do not like your image being used for records, and ask to speak off the record at any time when you do not want your say to be part of the videotape. This way, your part will be cut out of the video during editing. Today, we have the participation of Agnès Lazar and Guy Perron, who will present the theme, The Importance of Psycho-Spiritual Work. Thank you, dear Agnès and Guy, for your willingness to serve. The session is yours.
Well, I felt I was on an airport waiting for my seraphic transportation. Thank you. And it's recorded because they want to show it on the Mansion World that even though we're in a confused planet, we're truly making effort to find out what is that work. The work is important, the self is not. Well, myself is still really important, so how can I do that work? All right, we're going to start with a moment of worship. I think that's the best way to let go a little bit about our worries, especially on Saturday. It might be a shopping day, but you will have time to do your shopping after. And now let's feed our soul in coming together and understanding that Agnès and I are not sage on stage, but we're here to share with you our understanding, and hopefully we can gain a lot, and I'm sure we're going to gain a lot from your understanding of that psycho-spiritual work. So we're going to do a little moment of silence. We know that the best place to go in order to connect with God and to feel refreshed by that water of life is in worship. And when we're going to come out, Agnès is going to read to us a beautiful personal story. So let's take a couple of minutes. Thank you, Father, for bringing us together here today and for another experience in our long journey towards you, and for another experience, hopefully a Urantia experience that will really feed our soul and makes each of us understand experientially the importance of enhanced brotherhood. Thanks to each of you for being here, and what a blessing to understand that each of us are indwelled with the Father's Spirit, and that each of our soul are pervaded by the Spirit of truth, and that all of that will be greatly enhanced by working in coordinate harmony like we're going to do today during this webinar/workshop. So be it.
Amen.
Tu peux y aller, Agnès.
Okay, well, a few days ago, I received an email from Tamara and Joanne from Chicago asking me to write an article. And it was to answer this question: what is the meaning for me of the Urantia book? So I'm going to read the article, because at first I said to myself, I haven't got time to write an article. I'm really busy at the time. But before going to sleep, I prayed God and I said, well, if ever an article should be written, well, inspire me. And before waking up, he had inspired me. So I'm going to read you this article. So what is the meaning for me of the Urantia book? Here is the question I was asked. I cannot answer it without first talking about how this book came into my life. One night in January 2001, completely depressed by what I was going through and seeing around me, in tears, I asked God to show me the true meaning of loving without condition, as he had never stopped loving me. In September of the same year, I found myself facing an instructure of the truths contained in a big blue book that I didn't even imagine reading one day. This man of God, filled with love, patience, kindness towards me, taught me to the rhythm of my thought how God is love, how much he loves me, and that it is good to reach to him in me. This man welcomed me in my fears, my doubts, my questions, my tears, and especially my deep desire to know my Creator for hours and hours without any compensation. In writing these lines, I see, feel, and perceive the significance of beauty, divine truth, and goodness in service. This man was the channel through which God himself approached me with all his love. Even before reading the book, the transformation that the revelators propose us to live, updated in this servant of God, had deeply touched me to the point of inspiring my own personal spiritual path. Serve, serve, and serve actively. I once read the Urantia book completely. Motivated by service, I first personally deepened all the passages of the book that gave me keys of transformation in my current life. The mentioned worlds, the psychic circles, the papers on the religion, the thought adjusters, the life of Jesus, Rodin, and other good practical topics. Gradually transformed and more actively inhabited and guided by my thought adjuster, came to me people whose souls were thirsty as mine was years ago. God was and always is in every encounter. So what is the Urantia book for me? It's an extraordinary toolbox in which I draw food for my expanding soul, food necessary for the adjuster to work in my mind, this thinking, feeling, and perceiving mechanism of my being to increase efficient service. From day to day, I realize the power of the small definition of love that the book offers us. Love is the desire to do good to others. And I'll add my personal touch. Loving is doing good to others. Service is all around me. When I let go and let God guide me, He brings me exactly where He is, not yet. He brought me to prison, to His skinned alive children, the abandoned and rejected from the society, to remind them how much He loves them. It is in this place of misery that I experienced the immensity and simplicity of unconditional love. It is in this place that I have measured the importance and necessity of psychological work in parallel with spiritual work. Entering prison with blinding prejudices does not allow God to have a channel of expression. It is indispensable for the servant of God to be free from many personal obstacles to effectively collaborate with Him. I am filled with gratitude for the journey to my Father, which leads me day after day to the brothers and sisters. Today I pay tribute to the man of God who fed my soul, Musa Ndiaye. May God continue to bless him abundantly where he is now. And I would like to add that if I'm full of myself, how can God fill me? So there's been a lot of work, a lot of personal work, because the thought adjuster can do his job if I do my job. And my job is to do my best to be a better person each day and to master my ego for him to fill me. So that is what I wanted to offer you as an introduction to psychological work on ourselves. And without that work, I think that our thought adjuster cannot go very far, because it is our will to be actively a servant of God. But if he cannot work through us, with us, in us, what is he going to do? So that's my sharing.
Thank you, Agnès. Well, as we said earlier, the whole idea for us is to come together and share on this topic, and not us telling you what to do, but you sharing what you feel you have to do, and maybe the thing that challenged you, the thing you have gained from that work. You know, I think we all have appreciated that quote that the work is important, but the self is not. And if we give ourselves too much importance, we're losing much of our time and energy in trying to keep that ego dignity. So that's 555.5, by the way. I'm sure you know all of it. So we do have a kickoff question, and here what it is what do you think, feel, and perceive that psycho-spiritual work is? And do you feel it's important? And is it something we should start now in this world? Or like many might think that it will be all done in the mentioned world and we'll be okay? Or we just give it to God and he will take care of it, and he will transform us with a magic wand, which we know is not the way it's happening. So who would like to start? Alan, I think you have your hand raised. You're on mute.
Yeah. No, I didn't have my hand raised.
No? You were doing a bodybuilding work. So that's different. Okay.
Galaxy had his hand raised.
Okay,
I don't
go
know
ahead,
his name.
Galaxy.
Galaxy.
Well, he's a star from the galaxy and his number is J7. So,
Hello, everybody.
hello.
Hey, how you all doing?
Very good. You?
I'm very happy to be here, and I just want to, if you allow me to share this, I just I was always checking on my Facebook. There's a lot of Urantians putting up stuff, you know, and there was one article that I don't know who wrote it, but it it attracted me a lot, and it was something like when Jesus says, "I came here to liberate those in darkness," you know, and the person who wrote that article extended towards like not only in the way of the religion side, but in our daily lives, to get out of to use the presence of God to solve our problems. And I think that there's something that the current religions or religionists don't talk about how God can help us to solve, you know, to not just that, but to trust Him, to let Him do that, you know, guide us through our situations, you know. And it seemed like people, you know, now I'm not talking about Urantians or students of Urantia book, but others, they're very complaints, you know, that they're just happy with whatever they've been told in the churches and temples, and you know, they don't touch that about the presence of God in ourselves. And I know I just find it very interested that, and I never considered that is what He's trying to do, to trust Him, to let us guide us to that, all these situations in our daily life, you know, not just to in terms of religion, you know, who we follow, you know, what we believe, but it is in our daily life, you know. Whatever situation we're in, you know, let's count on Him, invite Him, and trust Him, you know. And that's I found it very interesting that it can also be used, you know, the presence of the Lord in ourselves to solve our problems, you know, to go against the wind, against the storms and everything, you know. I don't know. I just find that, you know, I wanted to say that because, you know, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very eager to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say, listening to Anya's experience, is that this beautiful brother that brought the information to her from the Urantia book did a very good job in that she came away from it seeing the need for service. And that's one of the most effective and beautiful things we can do, is help people to see how they can serve others. And from what I gather, she's getting a great deal of satisfaction out of service, in helping, coming to a fuller appreciation of life herself, and then sharing this with others. I think this is the goal for all of us, to see the value of service, and not to just be readers who fill ourselves with knowledge and information. So I liked her experience very much.
Thank you, Don. Lynn?
I agree with what you are saying, Don. And as a matter of fact, I am almost a copie conforme of Agnès. Yes, because I have met this same man in 2002, and he's the one who brought my soul to live, you know. So, and after that, the book was important, but what I had felt at that time was, how can I bring God to other people? How can I share God to other people? This was the most important thing. So for me to be born of the Spirit had brought some light into my life, and a sense, a purpose, a beautiful purpose of serving others. And serving, like you said, Alonso, service is everywhere. Service is everywhere. So as long as you decided to make a first step, don't worry. God will put people on your path, and you will be just acting. So yes and yes, it was a beautiful testimony. Thank you very much. And serving is what we have to do. Anyway, that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to add something, is that what touched me the most, it was the presence of that man in my life. He wasn't expecting anything. He was just there because he wanted to feed my soul, and I wanted to know more about God. And I think that when somebody spends days and days talking to you about what is in that book, well, I just felt that I'd wanted to do the same as he did for me. I don't know, but I know that God anyway, he brings the things as he knows is the best for the person. But I don't think that if I would have had the book, I would have as much eager to go and serve than if the experience of a man serving me. It was kind of an obligation to do it. How can I give back what I received of a person in front of me daily, 15 days, a few times in the year? Well, I have to do the same. Where are the people? And so that was very strong in me, more than just having the book. It's not that the book was not important, but what that man did of that book and the hours he was spending to serve everybody, all those people he was meeting, that was something. That was really something. So I think that gave me the not only the envy of doing it, but the strength to do it. If he done it, I can do it as well. And another thing that I wanted to say, it was before starting my experience in prison, that's 3 years ago. Well, I was in Dakar, where Moussa was, and I told him, Moussa, I'm going to have to go to prison. And that's not going to be easy. And he said to me, throw God in it. He's going to get those people ready, some of them, and then you'll go. And I threw God. And throwing God, it was praying. Just praying for the souls who were thirsty in prison, that I could meet them not alone, but meet them with God, because that's where he wants to be. And I was telling God, are you sure you want us to go to prison? Because I don't feel comfortable going in prison. Can't open the doors like I want to, or the windows to have fresh air coming in. But what I understood, it was that he wants to be where he isn't yet. And those are kind of places he isn't in. And so, but really, it was to have an example of people serving that really motivated me to serve as well.
Thank you, Agnès. Well, maybe we can go back to the topic is, you know, we kind of, Agnès and I are working on maybe something that will become a book, but something that will be a presentation in Tallinn. And I'm pretty sure that most of you have heard about a movie called Eat, Pray, and Love. Well, we decided to do an enhanced version or a part 2 of that movie, and it's going to be called Worship, Pray, and Love. So in the worship, we can be fed in our soul and, you know, becoming a good gardener of these fruits of the Spirit in order to manifest them in service. And I think the simplest, you know, of all the teaching, spiritual teaching we have access to, probably Jesus' teaching are the simplest, and they're right to the point. It's about, you know, living faith. It's God knowing and men serving. And how many of us have asked the question, what it is to do God's will? Well, it's written 2,000 pages of written words or word symbol that tell us we need to get out there and serve. And that's the best way to overcome selfishness, for just to name a first one of the maybe obstacles that are in the way. And we really feel that psycho-spiritual work, you know, in the Urantia book at one point in the Thought Adjuster paper, I remember a friend of mine, and he came, start reading the book, and for whatever reason, he felt that God will resolve everything for him. And I told him that's not the way it works. You know, he will work with you in resolving things, but he won't do it for you. And when he came to paper 108 in section 5, you know, it's too bad, but he dropped the book because he read there that it was his task. It was not God's task to work on his. Anyway, let me read the quote. Is the thought adjuster would like to change your feelings of fear to conviction of love and confidence, but they cannot mechanically and arbitrarily do such thing. That is your task. So for us, we feel that this is a big task. You know, we live on a planet that didn't receive what it was supposed to receive. Nevertheless, we're mind and Tao and spirit and dwelt. So we have everything that is necessary to do this task or to do this work. And the whole idea is that, I don't know if you pay attention, but in paper 100, they talk about religious growth and spiritual growth. And in a few study group, we share on that. And religion, you know, we all have our interpretation, and I'm not saying this one is better than anyone, but it was interesting to see religion more as my effort to be in relationship with God. Religion comes from religare in Latin, that means to relate. And spiritual growth is God becoming more and more present within me. So that might be something to consider. So what are the things that I maintain, any kind of defense mechanism that are deeply engraved within me, that are an obstacle to communing with the thought adjuster in worship? How many people have shared that, oh, it's so tough to worship. It's true, it's tough, but if you keep doing it, it becomes easier and easier. And then other people that say, oh, how difficult it is to pray. Well, the chief of the midwayer tell us 7 things that we need to do to become effective prayer. And we need to put them in practice. Right now we have a class on how we can become effective prayer on the UBIS. Anyway, it's really interesting, everything that is shared there. And I think, as Agnès said earlier, when we commune with God, we feel the presence of God. When we communicate with God, we share with God. Like what we see when we do the prison ministry, Agnès and I, we pray for these people. We pray that everything will open. So we ask God for his support, and he gives it to us like he would give it to anyone. So it's a way to communicate. And then how can I collaborate with God? When I go do the ministry, do I forget that God is with me? Because that's what happened. That's what happened to me many times. But when I go, I still need to pray while I'm with them, because in the spontaneity of the moment, things happen. And you probably all read that if you want to make God laugh, share him your plan. And then he will laugh, because his plan for you is much better. So how can we stay open, ready, and available to what is happening, in the spur of the moment, and at the same time be ready because we have refreshed our soul before we go serve. So this is why we really feel that it's a combination of self-work or psycho work or psychological. Psycho seems a little bit cuckoo, but let's say psychological work and spiritual work, which is how God transforms us. If we ask God to transform us, are we willing to be transformed? Are we willing to let go of things that are in the way? Are we willing to let go of our prejudice, our preconceived idea? And we do prison ministry, but there's many other ministry. But one thing that is really interesting in the prison ministry is we bring other people with us, and often people that are in study group with us, because they wonder how to serve. We say, why don't you come with us? We'll show you what we do. Not we think that it's the greatest, but that's a way to serve others. And what's really interesting, and Agnès can talk a little bit more about that, is when they come in prison, especially women, when they come out, after the first time they come, they cry like babies. And they look at themselves and they say, wow, I was so full of prejudice. I could have been the one in prison. I could have been caught for drunk driving. I could have been caught stealing something. It could be my son, or it could be my daughter, or it could be. And in that moment, in service, something was transformed in them. Their perspective on these people that are judged repeatedly each day was dropped in one heartbeat. And sometime in front of the inmates, they start crying. And we never call them inmate, never. We call them brothers, because they are our brother. And this is really an experience of true love, because it doesn't depend on the fact that they will love us in return. It doesn't depend on their status, because none of them have a status. They're completely depleted of everything that our basic needs are, especially love and warmth and tenderness and caring. And the function of guardian is to remind them that they have to be punished each day. And we can see that even the guards are changing their point of view, even the direction. Because when the love of God penetrates somewhere, it changes everybody. So what do you do to do that psycho-spiritual work? What are you doing to change your perspective? What do you do to let go of your prejudice? You know, one day I'm in on Thursday in our study group, a woman said, "Oh, I have a prejudice." She said, "What?" She said, "Well, when I see a black guy with a hood and with a bike, right away I think he stole that bike." And well, I told her, it's good you see it, and you see it's a prejudice. Now, what do you do to get rid of it? She said, well, I send him love. And in sending love, God is transforming me. She's 85 years old, and she do prison ministry as well. So what do we do? That would be really good to share. What do we do to let go of things that are all holding us hostage, that are blocking us from a better communion, better communication, and better collaboration with God that only want to do that with us? So the question is open to everyone.
Yes, and I would like to just add that meeting God is easy because he doesn't, we don't have aggressivity towards him. We're not bothered by him, but meeting our brother, that's something else because everything comes out there. We can be irritated by the reaction, the behavior of someone. We're not irritated by the behavior of God. God is love, but my neighbor is not totally love. And so when I'm in that, I think that we really meeting people, serving, that's the place where we grow. And that's where we are expected to be for God to transform us. In a couple, with the children, with our neighbors, at work, everywhere. We've always got reasons to be irritated. We've always got reasons not to be happy. We've always got reasons to think that it's their fault, it's not mine. But if I really had something to do there, if I really had to stop and to ask intervention from God and saying, I want to change my attitude, but I just don't know how to do it. But you are there in me. If I can't do it, you can do it with me. But he needs me to be conscious that I don't want that attitude anymore in my life. And I would so much appreciate to be a better person. And in that situation, he can really give me a help.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, Alonso, and then Belen.
My name is Alfonso.
Alfonso.
With an F. And I'm proved that God worked through us because a few years back, I couldn't even communicate with you in English. I'm from Mexico. And I was forced to read the book in English. Now you can see that I'm surprised that I'm able to communicate, and it's not perfect, but it's still English, you know. So I think that some way somehow God worked through, so I can talk to you because it gives you the courage to say, man, I used to think that I don't want to say nothing because my English is not perfect, not fluent. And then one day I just stood on the, so I said, hey, you know who I am? I'm so-and-so, and I apologize if you don't understand me. And they will go, no, Alfonso, hey, we read you. You're okay. So maybe by not being around Spanish-speaking readers, maybe I was forced to to do it in English. Thank God, I now have a group in Spanish, so I study with them, and it's been great. But what I was trying to say is just how to approach others. You know, first you have to feel in yourself, or how much has God worked for you, how much God had worked on you, and to show those examples of both. You know, I don't approach others trying to teach him about God. I just trying to show him what God has done to me, with me, you know, and if they're interested, find out why am I acting in in that way, you know, I might answer back. But other than that, I don't talk about anything that I read this book or that I got this, that, got that. You know, I just, like you said, act. You know, act, knowingly that what you're doing is good, and it's a God is leading you. God is guiding you to do that, regardless or you mention him or not. You know, to others. And I thank God. I meet people everywhere, anywhere. I'm just addicted to talk. I talk, you know, anywhere, and to the point that my wife would not allow me to go with the doctor, with her to the doctor, because I'm always talking. But maybe someone up in the heavens saw that, you know, that guy always talking. Give him something to talk about, something good to say, you know. So I'm using my whatever I have, you know, and in good service, because I always try to leave a good, I don't know, put a smile on the person, or say something, you know, something nice, you know, to that person, and they'll react and say, "Yeah, you know, you made my day, Mr. Garcia. Hey, you made my day. Thanks a lot. I want to hear that." And in situations like, you know what? You were meant to be here, Mr. Garcia. I said, why? Because you just told me something that I needed to hear, so I can tell my husband or something, you know. But it was, I know they always give you the opportunity, the situation where you can say something, or hear, or just to listen to others, you know. And you don't have to say anything about what you read or what you believe, you know. I have friends, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, and I mean, Jehovah's Witness, and I don't talk about, you know, I just show them, hey, you know, happiness, joy, smiles. Hey, my brother, welcome, whatever, you know. But I never trying to change their what they believe or anything. It's just something, you know, just to give them a reason to come back to my house and say, hey, I want to know why you always happy, and you know. But that's how I conduct myself to share, you know, what God has gave me, you know, been giving me, you know, and it's just the opportunity to make other person smile or happy. Maybe it's all I can do, you know, for a while. But that's how that's how, I mean, you cannot believe when people says, Mr. Garcia, every time I see you, I'm happy, you know, and that's give you like, oh my God, you know, that inside of you and your chest, you know, Jesus, God, trying, you know, wanted to cry because someone saw something on you, you know. Hey, sir, I don't know who you are, but for some reason, I know you got something to tell me. You know, I had my wife at the hospital, you know, and this guy says, hey, what you got to say to me? I said, why? Because I know you got something to say to me. And the lady that bringing the food, Mr. Garcia, I don't know what's wrong, but she cries. I say, why? This Muslim woman at the store, I said, she told my wife, your husband is like my brother. Because why? Because he was listening. He was listening to me, and you know those how secretive are those. The Muslim religion. I love them anyway. But they don't want to be approached. They cannot be approached by a man. And she comes and cry on my shoulder. I say, I call my wife. I say, come in. I want you to see something. And he said, your husband is my brother, because she listened. Her husband died. Her daughter ran away from home, and I was just there looking at the furniture. And she looked at me, and I look at her, and she started crying. I said, oh my God. I said, something is working on me. I just, that's those situations. I said, I know, something is working. And I raise my hand, and I go, thank you, Lord, for putting this soul, in my way. I don't know. I just do it. That's the way situation will come. It'll come. Maybe I don't know why, but they'll at the airport, at the airplane, at stations, at the store. But there's always someone who want to hear something nice. They want to have a better day. And I mean, this is just a daily living, situation. And that's my experience. Okay, that's my experience. And I love the way I try to express how much God has loved me and given me all this grace. And like I told you at the beginning, I'm proof, because I always consider myself, unworthy, a sinner or whatever. And I said, he put his eyes on me, to do something better. And I was also part of that committee for inmates, something that David Litcomb was conducting while he was here in Houston. You remember, who David Litcomb, right?
Yeah.
David Litcomb.
Yeah, he's in charge of the prison ministry.
Yeah, I was the one in charge to translate letters from Spanish-speaking inmates into English, and answer those letters. And I read some letters, made me cry. How they said, I saw this inmate, reading this book, and I just want to read it too, but I don't have the means or to get it, so. And I communicate that to the committee, and they do whatever is necessary to let them have a book, or, But I just told her, I say, golly, those people, those poor inmates, they're there, but they don't have anybody or anything to. Mm-hmm. They hang on to come out of the hole, And I just recently someone. And the Spanish community, the Urantia Spanish community, my beloved sister, I can't remember her name, but this person brought the Urantia book to the inmates somewhere in, I don't know, in South America, and whatever he put up, it was just, great, he put it so much clarity, to how can we help others that felt they're in a deep hole, and he told them the brain can adjust itself to a better, to evolve, not because you did something and sometime in your life, that doesn't mean you're being prevented for strain it up, and come up again. So he put it up pretty good, And I'm sorry, I just don't want to take much time, but I'm very happy to be here, and I thank you for allowing me to express my.
Thank you, Alfonso.
Alfonso.
And, by the way, your English is very good, so thank you. Thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you for showing us that serving is not complicated. A lot of people think they have to serve in a way like the planet has to be changed or other have to be changed, but doing good as you go by, as you just explained, smiling to people, sharing the joy that you feel within, being happy is pretty contagious. So this is very good. Thank you for sharing all that and for getting rid of that feeling of being unworthy and being a sinner, whatever is our background, that God loves us. And, we do interact. Most of the majority of our brother in the prison are Muslims. So it's good to see that when we come together, those things are transcended. We're not identified to being Catholic or Muslim or anything. We're identified to be sons of God, sons and daughters of God. So anyone else who would like to share?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. Belen, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you for that spontaneity and bringing up the joyfulness, Alfonso, in your work with your community. I think we can all follow that examples of joy and spontaneity and just be open to anything that comes out, when you meet with them. And also with the witnessing of Gay and Agnes, thank you so much. Those are powerful experiences you have for the person or the inmate ministry. Those are one of those ministry that I find it very hard to imagine because I haven't found someone directly in my daily life who does that work except for you and for Agnes. So those are really very, very powerful because it takes a lot of courage and to put aside all the ego and also put aside all the fear when you meet different kind of people that are, it's not of the mainstream population. And so I'm very humbled to hear your stories and yeah, it will be a challenge to, to free myself from doing things like that. For example, maybe in the future to do ministry also to the person, to the less fortunate brothers and sisters. So one topic that comes up is how to free ourselves from obstacle to carry on our service, our loving, doing good to others. And for me, I have to overcome my fear because something that is not familiar with me or something that I'm not associated daily or frequently, I'm a little bit distant. I'm afraid, I'm scared, but yeah, that is something that I have to transcend fear to do other things, to do ministry to other populations. Yeah. So number one, I have to tackle is myself, to free myself from that obstacle. Thank you all for your powerful, powerful sharing.
Thank you, Belen. Anybody wants to share about how to overcome fear? Alan.
Yeah, hey, everybody. I guess it was 68 I found the Urantia book, or you found me. Didn't really do much with it until around 75 when I wrote Foundation and got a book. But at the time I was into a lot of other things too that could keep you unspiritual while I'm trying to get real spiritual with this book. But anyway, it did get me, I did start reading it and things did start to happen. And then finally, later on, it was like, it was at 93, I got sober and I got into AA. and I worked those 12 steps. That's where my fear got gone. So one of the things the 12 steps helps us do. Of course, it teaches us God does it. We don't do it. But he did remove the fear from me. And I've always said it was, if it hadn't been for the Urantia book, I wouldn't have understood the spirituality part of AA. And thanks to AA, the 12 steps, I could go back and finally understand the Urantia book, you know? So I'm blessed in two ways. And today, what I'm doing now is, and I went to the prisons and everything too, and I actually spent 3 years in prison. So I know what all of you are talking about there. And I remember one time I was just about done with my prison sentence, and I was going through the Urantia book with this guy there's 70 of us in a room, and I put one guy across from me. I was taking him through the book. He was enjoying it, but all of a sudden, I guess God's got a sense of humor, because this guy came in the bunk next to me, and he was a hardcore fundamentalist, Bible thumping, you know what. And every time I would try to say anything about the Urantia book to this guy, he would get up and just, I mean, it was like, I don't know, was I being tested or what, but, but I just kept taking this guy through the Urantia book. And the other guy finally, over, a lot of time, months, he finally calmed down, because the other guys around were listening. And they said, look, leave him alone. They're worshiping the way they want to. You worship the way you want to. Now shut up and get in your bunk. Inmates can, stick together when they want to. And I took the guy, we and him went through the book. And I also had enough time to read the book 3 times all the way through. And I finally really went, wow, from 1968 to in 2000, I finally, I guess, I don't know, just, I know what the book's about now. And to me, you do have to read it cover to cover. Unfortunately, I can't go back into the prisons. They won't let me. But what I can do, and one of the main things I do besides AA, is we've got a huge social media out there today. Like it or not, a lot of us old people, it's not personal, blah, blah, blah. But there's billions of people on social media today. And three quarters of it is negative and BS. But thanks to a few people like Lynn, Carrie, Jerry, and myself, and the reason I won't get off of it, I don't spend all day on it. I spend maybe an hour a day at the most, a little bit, I'll get on about 10 minutes every now and then. But I will not put anything negative on it. I will only put positive stuff. I will only put music. I will only put things about peace and love. I will only put quotes from the Urantia book. And I don't know how many times I've had somebody come and say, don't quit posting. Your stuff saves me. Your stuff helps me get through the day. You're always positive. And like I said, Lynn, Jerry, and Carrie, they know what I'm talking about. We can, that's another way we can do service. We don't think of it maybe because it's not right, face to face. But there's a lot of people out there that hear so much negativity, just like the news, that if we'll just stay positive, like Alfonso said, and just say good things constantly, don't put anything negative, people pick up on it and it makes them feel good. Love is what makes the world go round. And peace and love, everybody.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Peace and love. Dynamic peace and true love. Dave, you want to say something? Oops, what happened? You want to share your screen, I guess.
Maybe hit the wrong button.
Maybe. Try another one. You want to share something on the screen, Dave?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you need to stop sharing your screen. Unless you want to share something.
I do want to share something. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, let me, I messed up my computer screen, so bear with me. I'd rather go ahead and say what I gotta say before I do anything more with my computer. Alan, let me just share with you, our experiences are identical, except the dates are different. I received my book in '84, and I got sober in 2007, and I have worked the steps, and it brought me back to the Urantia book, which I am in the process of reading it for my second time. But I will tell you that one helped the other both ways. Both my spiritual program started with my sobriety. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to put this on the table because I thoroughly enjoy this. As you all may know, I have attempted to reach out to find a study group in North Florida unsuccessfully. And I lived in an area of Florida that you experienced in prison. Almost everyone around me is fundamentalist. We have no congregational churches up here at all. None. We only have fundamental Christians here where I live. Here's my problem. I start engaging in a conversation, bear with me. I'll tell people about Angel Gabriel. I love him. He went to Daniel, he went to John the Baptist's mother, he went to Jesus' mother. We know who he is through biblically, and we know him through the Urantia book. So once in a while, I'll make a mistake and tell somebody, well, you know, Gabriel is the chief executive officer of our planetary prince Michael, who said that the soul was trapped on the planet Urantia, Earth, and he had to do it. And I start doing that, and then I lose everybody. And everybody thinks I'm a nut. That's my problem. And so as the educational committee can continue, hopefully in the future, y'all can give me some guidelines on how to approach this a little bit better so I don't put a lot of fear in people that I'm talking to. Thank you for letting me share. I'm Dave.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Would you drop the sharing screen, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll try.
The host should be.
I'm going to go ahead and
yeah, maybe Jeannie can do it.
Come back in.
Yeah, you just go on top and you in the middle and you stop sharing. Now we're gonna see all your private email. That's good. We're gonna see if you're the real deal.
I don't know what I need to do, but I'm going to turn my computer off.
No. Jeannie, can
you
stop
only need to stop sharing your screen in the green folder that has an arrow
on the top.
Yeah.
Yes. Put the cursor in the top of your screen.
Yeah.
And appear link options.
Not working.
No.
Now you go in that green box and you click and there's gonna be some choices and you click on stop sharing. Andre, were you about to say something?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
You know, I'm appreciating the sharing. I'm catching a theme that's coming through what everybody is sharing. And some of that theme is simply some of the basic psycho-spiritual work is learning to serve others, learning to be outward directed. And one of the ways in getting over our fear is to begin to do some of that work. some of the basic work that can be done is when somebody has been given the grace by God, as has been shared by two of our members, that when you see that there is a great barrier to one's relationship with God in the form of the false god, be it of alcoholism, be it of whatever it might be that presents itself in the form of an addiction. For some people, it's the addiction of needing to fix other people before fixing themselves. When we realize that kind of thing, that is basic work. And it's always interesting to me that the 12 steps had their genesis in about 1934, at the same time that the Urantia book was being manifest. And that's a sign that the angels work in many, many different ways. It is to me, it's the spiritual kindergarten that we all need, that we didn't have before the Urantia book, that many people will not find or will not be able to have access to the Urantia book without that. So when we find something like that, that's wonderful. I'm also put in mind of who on our wonderful call, our good friends Don Clementon and Jeanette Reed are doing wonderful work with their ChristExperiment.org, where they are attracting with some of their work, and they can speak better to this than I can, but I'll put a shout out because they are doing wonderful work attracting people from the Jehovah's Witness community, of which they were once a part, that now they have found effective means to bring people to the Urantia book. So I'm bringing that up not so much to point specifically to that, or if I look at the kind of things that you and Agnès are doing, and I know you're doing a lot of work on UBIS with your courses, just finding some way to serve others that would be helpful to them is a remarkable way to, first of all, get yourself out of the way. Mm-hmm. When you have to serve others, you become much less important in the equation. And the unfortunate thing is, sometimes we have a life experience that makes it seem that how things turn out for me in this situation are important. And of course, we should be able to look at the master as the ultimate example of how it turns out for you in the end is not important at all. Mm-hmm. So, and still, there are times where we get busy with life and we may lose priority. When there are times where one is, say, rushing off to work. I'll speak to myself. And when I see some homeless people on the mall, I don't always know whether or not this is my opportunity to serve or whether I really need to get to work. And sometimes it's not an opportunity to serve. Sometimes it's just somebody trying to take advantage of a situation. We're called to use all the time our human wisdom and to allow it to evolve, to make decisions each step of the way. And that's not always easy to do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's better to err on the side of service and love. And sometimes it's important for us to pay attention to what could be danger in a situation. And I hear very clearly in what Belen was sharing, that if you live in a dangerous situation, it may be quite a hump to try to get over the fear And that's an important aspect. But one of the things we do know that should also be a healthy kind of a fear is that we are all here for a very, very short period of time. And we all get experiences from time to time of people that leave us, and we see, oh, so this life really does end here. So my opportunities to work here are limited. I better get to work. And in that regard, in coming back to the theme of psycho-spiritual work, I happen to have a book from 1935 called Normative Psychology of Experience in front of me. That was a remarkable book for the time, written by Henry Wyman and Regina Westcott Wyman. And one of the things that Regina Wyman, Westcott Wyman particularly, was saying about psychological, first of all, there's plenty to do. There's plenty to do to help people. Whatever little thing we can do to show love is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Every little thing, forget about the big things. Being willing to serve in little ways is all important. Being able to serve with your workmates, you know, being able to just be a reliable coworker who is friendly, who people don't have to worry about how you're going to be interacting with them, whether you're going to be, you know, the all important one that they have to, you know, circle around and worry how they're going to have to interact with you. How about you being the one that they always know they can come to you with a problem? How about you being the one that they always know that he's not going to be the one who's going to be causing problems here? How about being the one that knows that he's got solutions and he may know how to navigate with this other difficult person? How about all of that? These are all important things that we can be doing, and how we serve requires us to get to know ourselves first of all. And I'll share briefly that I'm not speaking, when I speak about the 12 steps earlier, I'm not speaking as someone who has no familiarity with this. I have 30 years of familiarity in my realm, which I won't go into but it's important for us to understand what our own barriers are to our own growth. One of the things that's talked about in the 12 steps that I think is all important, that I have used with people that I have sponsored in the 12 steps, and that is a useful tool that I think any of us could use in our spiritual ministry with others. And there's a very powerful step that is very often overlooked in the 12 steps, and that is the second step. The third step's very, very important. The fourth step's very, very important for getting clear, you know, admit it to God. Well, that's the fifth step. Admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. All of that's important. But that second step came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. There are so many people that have so many lousy ideas about God that need to clear those away. And if we can work with a person on this one aspect of making the God of their understanding approachable, this is the basic problem in human life right now that I can see, is that, first of all, you can't even bring up talking about God to most people. So the basics of this aspect, and I'll be quiet because I don't want to, there are other people that have valuable things to say. This idea of making God approachable is a three-step process in this coming to believe in a God, you know, a power greater than ourselves that can restore, in my case, to a certain kind of sanity. And certainly in looking around at the world, we can see the world might be a little insane these days. One at a time, we get a little more sane, the world is a little more sane. So how do we do that? Number one, we have to find what it is we believe, first of all, about God. What do I currently believe about God? And I used to have my sponsees, and still do, write out at least 15 things that they currently believe about God. After reviewing those things, go through a second step of saying, what are 7 things that are currently not working for you or needful in your relationship about God? At least 7 things. And there are plenty of things. You could probably think about things now that are still holdovers from your faith that you still believe or that make God less approachable to you. What is needful? You know, well, I believe God is always angry at me, might be an example. Okay, put that out there. Once reviewing those things, what are things that you need? What are 15 new things that you need to believe or need to know about the God of your understanding? Our book is full of the qualities of God, full of all these wonderful things about God. And for people to go through this work of thinking about it, being willing to consider this, and at the very end, after going through all of that, saying, okay, let me ask you, we'll know we were successful in this undertaking if I can ask you, have you come to believe in a power greater than yourself that can restore you to sanity? And then I have another question. Is this God of your understanding now approachable? You see, the approachability of God, to me, is the prime problem we have on our planet today. People do not have a God of their understanding that they can either believe in or that they find approachable. If you want to do a service with somebody, and if you have that opportunity, then maybe you can work on them with that one aspect. There are plenty of things that psychology and getting to know yourself in just the realm of psychology can do to help things. And just to give you 3 examples from this thing, and then I'll shut up. Regina Westcott Wyman said, one thing is an objective point of view of human behavior. Religion tends to be too subjectivistic. It tends to come too much from our point of view. We tend to not be able to take the other's point of view as much. The attitude of an engineer instead of a judge in approaching a problem situation. Religion tends to have a moralistic aspect to it, okay? Not as the Urantia book advocates religion, but as most people approach moral problems. Psychology allows a person to look at the problem more as an engineer would look at a problem and say, what's really the problem here? And one other thing, light upon the laws of growth, general principles, laws for various developmental levels, and principles of distinctive developments. How often do we look at the fact that somebody is functioning on a lower educational level, but we're trying to approach them from a higher educational level? We can't approach people with all the meat of the Urantia book. Sometimes we have to approach them with the milk.
Well, thank you, Andre. Just before Zonette will share a few things with us. It's really interesting in that psychological work to understand that I was part of a school of consciousness before becoming a student of the revelation and hopefully living the revelation. And in that school, we were studying psychology from man's possible evolution and not with the purpose of giving all kind of label to people, like dysfunction label, like whatever, schizophrenic or moody or this or that. And as you remind us, Andre, we're all work in progress. And I think we have in us that desire to be perfect. But many people fall into perfectionism. And they don't want to do things unless it's perfect. They don't want to do service unless it's going to be perfect. And I think when Dave shared with us, you know, we can understand that people become quite annoyed with the fact that they're not doing it perfectly. But none of us are doing anything perfectly right from the start. And even now I'm challenging everyone, what do we do perfectly? You know, we need to constantly repeat. And in keeping, as you said, Andre and Alfonso, and many of you have shared, you know, that you just do it and you start simply and you're out there and you want to do good and it doesn't need to be perfect and it works. I think perfectionism is a great handicap to being in touch with God. You need to be humble and teachable. And when you have that trait of perfectionism, and by the way, my father is an engineer, and they say that's one of the problem of engineer, it's perfectionism. So anyway, and I think the fear of not doing it well, the fear of not looking good, the fear of all these things come from these connected pattern to perfectionism. So we're not perfect, we're perfectible, and God has given us everything to become perfect. We have a divine personality to realize, we have a divine indweller that guides us to become perfect, and what a joy not to be perfect. It's our eternal quest. So I don't know if Agnès was going to say something. I think she needs to leave a little early, but it will be a joy to listen to Zonette and maybe Don about how they bring revealed truth and in a subtle way.
I'm going to leave you in a few minutes, but I'm going to listen to...
Okay. Zonette, do you want to go first or Don? Or if
yeah,
you go...
hi, Guy.
Hi, how are you?
I have my camera off because I'm working. I'm listening in the background. And believe me, you don't want to see me working. So that's why my camera's off.
Okay.
I wanted to say thank you, Andre, for the shout out. Don and I represent the Christ Experiment. We're both here. And I appreciate the support. There's one thing I wanted to clarify, and that is, while our ministry did begin with focusing on Jehovah's Witnesses, we have evolved, and we are reaching out to all religions. We've become interreligious, intersectional to all groups. Because I didn't want people to think that we're limiting to one area, and maybe, you know, they might not want to participate with us because they think we're like pigeonholed over here. We're not. We're broad. We're international. We're doing our thing all over the place. So I wanted to say that to, of course, encourage participation and interaction. As regard the subject matter of this webinar, what a great topic, psycho-spiritual, what is it, psycho-spiritual work?
Yes.
And I thought about that, and I said, what is a psycho-spiritual work for our day? And of course, you know, being the Christ Experiment, we're looking at it from a Jesusonian perspective. And the Urantia book tells us that what the world needs to see is Jesus living among the mature spiritual men and women of our day. And so I think this psycho-spiritual work is to become like Jesus, so that when we're interacting with other people, they are hearing his message and his spirit. Not, you know, we're not talking about doctrines and things like that, but we want to represent Jesus in our interaction with our brothers, and certainly in our ministerial activities. And so I think that's where my focus would be for me in terms of my psycho-spiritual work, is to try to get that mind of Christ, you know, and that's the area that I would be working on. And then the last thing I want to mention before I get back to work is you invited me to say a little something about our work. We have recently opened the School of Evangelists. We call it the Christ Experiments School of Evangelists. And this is a school that we started to help develop ministry skill. not, we're not studying the contents of the Urantia book. We're trying to use a Urantia book to teach the skill of ministry by focusing on what Jesus actually did and what he taught, what the apostles did and taught. And also we draw on the school of the Prince, the school of Adam and Eve, the school of Magaventa, and use these techniques to help us develop ways to approach other people with the revelation without triggering prejudice or resistance to a new so-called spiritual, divine scripture. So that's what our school is about. And we invite everybody to come and take a look, see what we're about. It's called the Christ Experiment School of Evangelists. And that's what we're doing. So unless you have a question, I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Zonette. Don, would you like to add something?
Yeah, since we had discussed overcoming fear, I thought which is one of the things we stress in the school, is that the best way to overcome fear is to have a predetermined idea of what you want to accomplish. And I think central to that is Jesus' message of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. I was just reading, I'm just going to share a little brief passage here, because we're talking about reaching people who have very difficult problems. And sometimes we are stretching ourselves to find a way to address it. And in the paper on the way to Rome, in 132, it said that as a rule, when Jesus was helping others, to those he taught the most, he said the least. And he said those who derive most benefit from his personal ministry were overburdened, anxious, and dejected mortals who gained much relief because of the opportunity to unburden their souls to a sympathetic and understanding listener. And it says, and he was all that and more. So people do need to have someone to listen to them. But then it goes on to say, and when these maladjusted human beings had told Jesus about their troubles, always was he able to offer practical and immediately helpful suggestions, looking toward the correction of their real difficulties, albeit he did not neglect to speak words of present comfort and immediate consolation. And invariably would he tell these distressed mortals about the love of God and impart the information by various and sundry methods, that they were the children of this loving Father in heaven. He always ended up with good results from that. And I think it is for us is to look at all of the methods that he used, because in the same paper it said that he taught the cynics, the Mithraic priests, and a group from the mystery cults, all very diverse backgrounds, but they were all prepared to receive the gospel message when the missionaries came out. So our drive is, how can we take the master's method of reaching all of these diverse thinking people who come from various backgrounds, could be atheism, agnostic, abuse, misuse, you name it, and craft our message to be able to address them in a way that they don't feel preached to or proselytized. And if we could study his methods, we have a saying, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Jesus has already invented the wheel. All we have to do is roll it. But we have to know enough about his methods and the way he thought and taught in order to employ these. And if we could really immerse ourselves in this with the objective of being teachers as he would, I think we could have a very powerful effect on the world.
Thank you, Don.
I'd like to say something before leaving, because Donald, you you made me connect with that. A few months ago, I went in prison, and there's one of those guys, he's 30, and he told me, "Oh, Agnès," in front of the others, "I know that you would like to change us with all your tools. But you know, some of them want to stay in prison. They don't want to change." And I went home with that, and I prayed, and I meditated on that. And the following day, I saw them again, and I said, "You really made me work. You know what? You are right. When I came here at first, I wanted to change you. But today, I can tell you that you changed me. And it's really what I feel. They changed me. And going into service, I understand that it's not wanting to change anybody. It's letting God, in various situations, show me what I have to change in myself. And that is really what I understood of this situation, and all the situations that I'm getting in now. I look at it with that vision. I'm not going to change anybody. I'm just permitting God to change me where I am going. And if it has an impact on the other person, well, good. If it doesn't, good as well. So that's how I wanted to finish this, because I really have to go there. But thank you very much for all your sharings, and well, hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Agnès. Thank you very much.
I got one quick little thing. I was up there, Dave, where you're talking about in that Bible Belt, Swanee and Live Oak. And what I have determined from the Urantia book is that it all boils down to, somebody just said it, the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Took me a while to see the simplicity of that. And whenever I would get in a discussion with a fundamentalist, the Urantia book, I found the way to solve it was, I'd ask the person, "Well, do you think you're a child of God?" And they say, "Yeah." I said, "Well, do you think we should love one another?" And they say, "Yeah." I said, "Me too."
Mm.
And that was it. No more. It was, "Oh, okay." Who can argue with that, right? So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Lynn, you want to share something?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for sharing what you are sharing, your spiritual life, your internal life. Few things I would like to say. First of all is, how do I work on the psychologic spiritual work and overcome of my fears? First of all, I do pray. I pray because I cannot do it alone first. Andre, you said we're here for a short time. Yes, we are. And we need to pay attention to every little need around us. And we need to trust that when we are acting with God inside of us. We're not doing this job alone. And many years back, I did not know God. And I was almost scared of when I felt God within me, that I had to share him back. But how do I do this? I don't know him. I was really, really, really scared. But Alfonso, you reminded me that when you said 3 years ago, I didn't speak English. And what I realize is that every time that we are doing something, God is preparing us for something bigger, greater, much, much, much more. When you think that 3 years ago you didn't speak English, and now you're talking English and you speak with everybody that is on your path, and you practice your English, listen, God did prepare you 3 years ago. He didn't put a Spanish book in your hands. He put an English book in your hands. And I think that we all have those kind of experiences that if we look back, our progression, we have different spots in our lives where God put us there to learn something. And then 6 months later, a year later, 2 years, 15 years later, it's a much bigger service. We need to trust. So we need to pay attention and be creative with whom we are sharing the teachings. We don't have to share the book. The teachings are the most important things. And yes, Alan, when you said that on Facebook, on the media, I never share anything which is negative. I always put thoughts with values. And so many times people from other countries, they write to me and they say, Lynn, you put beautiful things. And at one time, I really thought that I would disconnect from Facebook because I said, there's too much negative stuff. And I wrote to one of my friends and she said, please don't do this. You don't know who reads your quotes and how it uplifts their lives. So we're all doing service, being creative around us for whomever is there to listen to. So there is no small little services. There is just service. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Bruce?
Can I clarify something?
Hold on. Bruce has his hand raised.
Okay.
After Bruce.
Sure.
Okay?
Okay.
Go ahead, Bruce. Nice to see you, Bruce.
Yes, I think you make a really good point that I'd like to just expand a little bit. And that is, in the psychospiritual work, you have to approach it from three different perspectives. You have to approach it from the perspective of your past. How has God gotten you to where you are? And that's a personal pilgrimage that's unique to every human being. All the different experiences as I hear it, even related today, we are all talking about our own personal path, our own trajectory, what that means. The second, I think you have to understand is you have to understand the moment of the now, where you are. What is your relationship with yourself and how you work with yourself and in yourself at this given moment, and work also with the individuals, the world that is around you. You were asking earlier, what is religion? And I thought your point was very well taken when you said, religion is my effort. My effort is not just between my ears. My effort is with all of those around us. And I think everybody is reflecting on that. But the third element that I think is just as important is the element of vision, the element of future, the element of understanding. Where is it that we're going? We need to know that there is more to this life than just the grave. That this whole demystification of death that the fifth epochal revelation presents for us is extremely powerful information. It's so vitally necessary to who and what we are, because it is through that information of understanding our future that we understand our Morantian being and our Morantian development here in the now and in the presence and where we are. So I think that if we can combine these three elements of recognizing where we come from and what we are now and where we are going in our spiritual work is really important. It gives us a vision of who we are and what it is we are about. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. Good to see you again. John, just before you speak, you know, it's really interesting. There are so many pearls in the Urantia book, and I think first and foremost is for us to really understand it by experiencing them. You know, they say that spiritual truth can only be understood by feeling them or living them. And, you know, in that school of consciousness, it was all about knowing thyself and who I am, and to become aware and to awake to even our mechanical doing and being almost like a machine reacting to external stimuli. Become aware that we're way more than that, because the observer becomes way more than what is observed. So observing, self-observation is really a tool. But in the Urantia book, it said the Greek were saying that it was all about knowing thyself. And then again, Jesus brought it to another level when he said, know God and know yourself as a son of God. Wow, what a different perspective, even though it seems very close. So, as you were sharing, André, earlier, people don't know God, or the God they know, it's a God that even us would kind of reject, or it's not appealing. So, thank you for reminding all about these things, that it's important to know ourselves. And whenever we're dealing with people that are struggling, Agnès and I, one of the things we do in prison is really to bring them to a better understanding that they're child of God. Not that they're Muslim or they're Catholic or they're a Protestant, but they're truly child of God. If they embrace a path, that's different. But first and foremost, to experience that living relationship between them and God. And this is personal. This is what the Melchizedek have teach us so perfectly in a way, or such in a great way through the religion paper. Go ahead, John.
I want to thank everybody that's shared their personal experience. It's always exciting to hear what people are doing. I have been recently commissioned as a Stephen minister in my church. And if you want to look at Google that, you can find out what Stephen ministry is about. But the important thing is that they make conscious, which all us Urantia book readers are very aware of, is that when we meet with our care receiver one-on-one, there are three people in the room. There are the two of you and God. Of course, I have the fourth, the Spirit of Truth. And that changes. You're not there to solve the care receiver's problem. God is the one that heals. And as we know, Jesus also. So this is a concept that you consciously, when you go in to meet with a person, it really alleviates fear. It's just an amazing thing. And because you're not there to feel that you have to solve the problem. You're there to listen so that the problems can be verbalized and focused. And I'm on a wonderful adventure, but thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that, John. Thank you. We're not doing it alone. And there's quite a powerful quote that says, if you cannot do it, someone in you can do it. So stay connected and you're going to get through. So we're coming to the end. Alfonso, it will be really good to listen to you again, but you have 1 minute. And, you know, in Toastmaster, I had quite an experience connected to what you were saying earlier. It said, okay, here we are. We need to speak. We learn how to speak, but boy, do we have something to say. That's maybe
right.
even more important. And, you know, I talked with Zonette and Don earlier this week, and there was Andrew from Australia, and he said, wow, we know what to do and we know how to minister, But now we have the good message to spread. And I thought that was a very powerful thought, that we do have a powerful message, and it's a beautiful one, and something, even saying the kingdom is within you is a powerful thing. Everybody is happy to know that the divine indwells them, you know, whatever they think about God. So let's keep it simple, and I think all of us will progress. And as we said, you know, when you go out there, God is transforming you. And that's the most appealing thing all around you, to see someone that's been transformed. You know, some people will reject it, but a lot of people will be touched by it. And, you know, nobody is a prophet in his own family. We know that. So maybe sometime it's good to start to go other places than, you know, only talk to the people around you and try to change them. Just accept humbly to be changed. And believe me, if you go out there, God will continue to change you each day, because that's what the Spirit of Truth is doing, renewing our mind constantly. Well, if I'm holding on to, you know, my preconceived idea of my cherished opinion about this and that, when people ask me if I have an opinion, I say, no. I say, are you kidding? You don't have an opinion on Trump? Or I say, no, I don't have an opinion. What's the purpose of having an opinion? What do I see? Maybe Trump is the perfect guy there to change the world, because people will get enough of many things. So anyway, let's stay open, receptive, and ready and available to whatever God is want to do with us. And so if you have any closing comment, anyone, and Alfonso, if you can do it short, that will be really good. And
Yeah.
if someone is moved to do a closing prayer, please do. I know Andre is pretty good at it, so go ahead, Alfonso.
I just want to clarify that I know how to speak English, but I was afraid to talk in public, you know, to talk to others, you know, and I was afraid that I wasn't going to be understood, or, you know, because of my poor accent. But I knew how to speak English, and I found the Urantia book 15 years ago. But since there was no Spanish speaking group, I was forced to go to English speaking groups, study with them, and I learned to communicate, you know. But and sometimes, you know, I'm surprised sometimes that I can use words, you know, that I don't use it, you know, and then daily, you know, and I say, Ali, you know, this guy is doing something, working on me on my vocabulary too, you know, because I was able to speak fluid, you know. But I apologize if you don't understand what I was saying.
No, we understand you very well. You speak the tongue of the Spirit, so everybody understand that here. Thank you for doing it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Alfonso. Anybody would like to do a closing comment? Another one? Especially Rick, Andres, or anyone that didn't speak much? Or Carrie? Or Jerry?
Did Pio have his hand up?
Yeah, Andres, go ahead.
It's only to thank you, to the, oh, I don't remember the name of the woman from Belgium.
Agnès.
Agnès, yes, Agnès, to thank you, because, and the opinions of all of you, because a lot of things want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, you have in front of you your inner, your relation with God, your relation with other people, your family, your friends, the society. You have a lot of things how to work, because the decision is not easy. I was remember today all the time about the Urantia book, talking about Joseph, Joseph, the last son of Jacob, because Urantia book says that he has to decide to choose between being a military leader or administrative leader, and finally he decided to be an administrative one. Is that kind of decision you have to take in your life if you ask how to help better the others?
Thank you, Andres. Thank you very much. Carrie or Pio, you want to say something before we say goodbye? And Andre, if you want to do a prayer to close, that would be very nice.
I'll say a couple words. When we talked about, people wanting to do things perfectly and then that keeps them from doing it. We live in an evolving universe. God created a world that, as we're living it, is not really perfect. It's changing and growing. And I think that we have to accept that that's our destiny as humans too, that we have to act. What we're called in to do in the world is to act in the world, and the consequences are God's, and they take a long time. God creates an evolving world. At least that's the one we live on. And we shouldn't expect anything, that we should be able to accomplish things faster than that. So we just have to go forward with sincerity and goodness and love in our hearts and do what we can do where we are. And that's it. That's all.
Thank you. And be patient. Thank you, Carrie. Pio, you want to say a word?
Hi, Guy. I've been sick with bronchitis, so I'm still in bed. And I want to thank everybody in your service. So I always take away something on this kind of a UAI Zoom meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll pray for God to quickly heal you. As John was saying earlier, we're not the one that will heal you, but God is certainly the greatest healer by showing us where to go. Okay, thank you. Thanks to everyone, and we're gonna end with
Guy, just a little word before I say goodbye to everybody, and let's just keep on dancing with God.
Oh, that's so cute. We're gonna do that tonight here in Quebec. If you want to take your a plane and come here, maybe it's last minute, but okay, Andre, you want to go with closing prayers, s'il vous plaît.
Father, thank you for bringing us all together to learn how to serve you better. We're loved by you as your children, even as we are, even as imperfect as we are today. We get better with you by bringing you into our life more and more, and by being willing to reach out to just one more person each day, to try to invite them to your love in whatever way they're able to receive it. Please, Father, help us to find that next person, even as we go out from here. Amen.
Amen. I love you all. Thank you for being here, and God bless you in all your personal ministry. And please continue to do good as you go by, whatever you do. Thank you.